creating a data platform from zero is one of the most exciting things you can do. Basically, you only have the company goals, and then you need to figure out a platform that you're going to build on it. And that's what we're looking at today, a greenfield approach of building a data platform. If you want to see something that is data migration, so basically improving a platform, I added the link here for you where you can go to that video. It's the previous one. Now, in this, I have this from the Airbyte website. This video is not sponsored by Airbyte. It's just you find these things through these companies that show what they've done with their customers, because nobody wants to show exactly their data platform, right? So I need to try to figure out some stuff. And this here I created with Claude based on that website that they have on the Airbyte site, where basically they're showing here what is the goal. That's from Anecdote, and the goal of that company is basically an AI engine that helps companies. Let me make this a bit bigger for you. An AI engine that helps companies make better decisions by listening to their customers and asking the right questions. It's done by reading support tickets, chats, social media, phone calls, NPS surveys, and App Store reviews. Right? So you're getting all that data from the internet, need to bring it somewhere, and then you need to analyze it with machine learning and whatever, and then have it for the customer as a way of, okay, I can ask questions regarding my company, I can ask questions about what people think, and then I get some insight into what's actually happening. Basically, everybody can create this. It's just easier to buy this from someone else, right? Just tell them, okay, this is our company, and then they figure something out and they get all the data and do their proprietary analysis. Now, what have they built here? What they have built is, and they said here in that script, they said it needs to be very quickly. Anecdote team save 20% of data engineering time through here using Airbyte. The founder said here they're basically saving time. This was built very quickly, and also through the whole process when you modify stuff, they're saving 25%. I don't know these numbers, are they that accurate? But I think you get the idea. Now, what have they built here? And we're going to look at this again into the sources, how they ingest data, how they store the data and process it and output. Now, this is not a typical analytical use case because it also has some machine learning in it. So it's not just some DBT models on the database on Snowflake. But the idea here is, of course, you want to get some data. As I said, they have support tickets, chat, social media. So you have, for instance, with Zendesk, right? Or Freshdesk tickets that need to be ingested. You have Twitter, or basically X, social feedback. When somebody tags your company or speaks about your company, you want to have that. Trustpilot is also one of these platforms, big in Europe. I don't know how big this is in the US. Maybe let me know in the comments. Getting the reviews in. Also, didn't they say also Google reviews and so on? Out of the box connectors. I think I read somewhere also Google reviews and App Store reviews, right? So all these kind of data is going to be then ingested with a data integration tool in the data integration layer. And you can use Airbyte here for this, but there are a ton of data integration tools. In the last video, if you haven't looked at this, again, I'm going to also put it in the description, as well as, of course, the website here for Airbyte. I'm going to put this in the description. They also used Airbyte, but no, they used Fivetran here. Exactly, they used Fivetran. So the main idea here for you to remember is, okay, I'm going to use some data integration tool that has the right connectors, best case, to already connect to these, because then it's a simple click thing, right? They have a SDK, they can sync data, 9 sources in total, so we don't see all the sources here. And of course, Airbyte, is that open source? I think so, right? And then where does the data go from here? The data from here, they're making it very simple. They say, okay, let's dump this into our S3 storage. They have a raw data lake here. Basically a landing zone. You do this very often when you are not having a database behind it, but you want to do some machine learning, because the machine learning models that you create, they need to get stored somewhere. Very often you use S3 for it. And also they need to get the data from somewhere, right? And the data, where do you usually get this? from a file store like S3, because that's the most efficient way of working or of training models, getting the raw files from it, as long as they're not too small. But so most often you do something like a compaction. So you have daily data or hourly data, and then you compact this into, or hourly, a minute, and then you compact this into daily data, so it's easier to process actually, instead of having a lot of small files, which is never good. So basically the data lands here, you have no data loss, you can pause this whole process and resume it whenever you want. Everything goes in here, and then you have your ML pipelines. I think they did not say where the data pipelines were, or did they say? They currently use AWS infrastructure, mainly with a bit of Google Cloud. Airbyte is managed in their EC2 machines, right? So this year, EC2 plus VPC, of course, self-hosted, and then S3, and then most likely they do either something complete custom, or they do something with SageMaker here. That's usually the thing that you do. You do some natural language processing. You extract the data out of these posts. So you could say, I'm doing a sentiment analysis, right? Sentiment. You can do some basically, how's it called? Categorization of what are categories that categories of problems people have, and the typical problems, and so on and so on and so on. Of course, that data needs to be stored somewhere, so that needs to go off to some database. They didn't say where here, right? But that needs to go somewhere, and then the customer insights most likely then accesses that data and gets the information out of it. But that is what you usually do. So I think they are keeping this very broad because they wrote here, right, or extracted this from the text. That is their core product here, the machine learning pipelines, the extraction of the data and delivering the insights. So they want to be vague here. But I think that is what they do. They build the ML models, and most likely the models also here, the models go here. The models will be stored in a data pipeline. You need to schedule them somewhere. That's why I think most likely they using something like SageMaker here, plus some scheduling, and then they run this through every day or every hour. Usually in these kind of things, that is not that time critical, right? Because yes, the X data is going to change. There are going to be some new support tickets, but who cares if it's 1 hour old? You don't need to be live. The customer insights here, this could theoretically could be a report with charts and so on, and some bullet points with text, and you send this off via an email to the client. So it's not, I think that is not time critical. The important thing here, you get the data in very easily. Use something like Airbyte to be able to connect to all these platforms very easily. Take the data, store it in a data lake, raw, without any transformations. Most likely you want to run some transformations here, some data cleaning, right? You could also do this with SageMaker, but that is it. And then you run your pipelines, you deliver some or create some results, some insights, and then that insight is going to be sent to the customer, hopefully in an app or a user interface. And because you're hosting this here, this is the only thing you need to manage here is EC2, right? So if you have the more sources, if you have more clients, this needs to do more work. So you need to scale up this system. S3 is going to scale really well. ML pipelines, most likely, if you build them with SageMaker, it's easy to scale as well. If you have a really nice S3 structure that is, how's it called? Of course, partitioned. That is partitioned. So you could have something where you say you have the data source, and then you have basically, you could have the timestamp, and then below you have maybe some features, or you have then the files are then here below. And this timestamp could have it by day, you could have it by hour, whatever. But that's usually the structure. If you have a really nice partitioning, then you can, with SageMaker, scale really well, because you can use more compute, and that compute then takes the data from S3. And if it's really well partitioned, you have a horizontal scaling, so you can use more compute, and you have more partitions, so you can really well in parallel process the data and analyze the data. yeah, again, this is not sponsored. It's just I find these kind of things super interesting to see what companies do. Of course, as I said, there's always stuff missing because they're not going to tell us everything, which is a bummer. But you can figure out a lot from what you see. If you have questions, let me know in the comments. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe now. And see you next time in the next video. Bye.